Just to refresh your memory, the food drive started Purim, and if you're like me, I forgot to bring my food today, but there'll be plenty of opportunity to bring it. So next time you find yourself heading for the shul, grab some cans or dry goods or something like that and bring it to support the food drive. And it's now my pleasure to ask Ken Magbo to come up to the bima and deliver his remarks to us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
If you'll please indulge me for a moment before we talk more about hunger and homelessness and some of the challenges we have as a nation. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that happened 50 years ago, almost to the day. Martin Luther King, and let me not associate myself with that great man. I'm not saying I am of the equivalence, but Martin Luther King spoke at Temple Israel of Hollywood on about this day 50 years ago. And this was soon after the Selma incident, and he was scheduled actually to speak 2 years prior to that, but John F. Kennedy was killed, and they had to reschedule. So this was maybe 2 weeks after Malcolm X was killed. So with Selma and all of that, this was a very heightened time in our history. But he thought it was important to have this, to honor the invitation of that synagogue to speak to the members of the Jewish community about how important it was to him and to the people of the disenfranchised people of this country, especially African Americans, the partnership that they've had with the Jewish community. And a lot of times now we forget, or people don't know their history, but the Jewish community has been very, very helpful to the struggles of the disenfranchised people of this country, especially African Americans. And so I want to say thank you on behalf of African Americans for that. One of the quotes from that speech he made is, "We are often given new courage and vigor to carry on when we know that there are friends of goodwill in the background who are supporting us. And we feel this day in and day out." At that time, he also said there are some 40 to 50 million of our brothers and sisters in this country who are poverty-stricken. There they find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. Certainly, if we are to be a great nation, we must solve this problem. Well, that number has only increased. It hasn't, we've done some things to address it, but we still have a long way to go. And so what I am, just so I can give you a little bit of background, I am the Vice President of Housing and Support Services for an indigent care mental health facility here in Dallas. We are the largest provider of permanent supportive housing for formerly homeless people suffering from mental illness. There's about 500 plus, right around 500 give or take, units where we house families and individuals throughout the Metroplex. As far north as McKinney, as far south as DeSoto. We run 2 food pantries, and through those food pantries, we feed the people in our housing as well as the people who come to our clinic in the neighborhoods that those clinics are based in. Last year, we created a partnership with Trader Joe's on Greenville Avenue, and we distributed over $800,000 in food. That is just a small drop in the bucket of need. So another person that I wanted to highlight is Julius Rosenwald. And I'm sure many of the people here know who that is. He was one of the founders of Sears, but he also founded a fund called the Rosenwald Fund. And with that fund, he provided 5,000 schools throughout the South for African American children to get an education. He was on the board of the Tuskegee Institute from 1912 till his death. He partnered with Booker T. Washington to supply opportunities to the disenfranchised minorities of this country. One of the things he did was create one of the first mixed-use, mixed residential, commercial, and social use housing developments in Chicago. It's called the Michigan Boulevard Garden House Apartments. It's still there. They built it, I believe, in 1929. His son, or his nephew, was the architect who designed it. And what this did was it covered a full square block. It provided 421 units to people who are poor, mostly African Americans, to relieve the tremendous overcrowding and the racial segregation issues in Chicago. I'm sure I can go on and talk to you about other Jewish people in this country who have done stuff like that, but I wanted to highlight just one of them, that this is what, I'm not here to ask you to be Julius Rosenwald. I think that that's there are only so many of those kind of people. But what I'm asking you to do is to do as much as you feel you can to contribute to that effort that he was about. So I think I was going to try some Hebrew today. I practiced this word, but there's just no word like it in the English language. So my vocal cords could not get around it. Okay, but I practiced. I have a friend who is a Sephardic Jewish, and she was working with me yesterday, and I couldn't get it. But I'll tell you what the tzedakah. Okay. Thank you. What that word means, that helping human beings is not a matter of charity; it's a responsibility, righteousness, and justice. Is so. I wish we had a word in the English language that had that power, but that's what we are about. That's what I think this mission to end homelessness and end hunger in this country is about. It's not about charity. It's about our responsibility as humans to our fellow humans. All right? So I think in the Bible it says in Psalm 118, 117, when you are asked in the world to come, what was your work? And you answer, I fed the hungry, you will be told, this is the gate of the Lord. Enter into it, you who have fed the hungry. That's what this is about. LifeNet has been around for 38 years. It was created to provide housing to long-term people who had lived at Terrell State Mental Health Facility. It was some citizens who engaged and said, we want to provide something so these people don't have to be institutionalized forever. We were not called LifeNet back then. We were called something else. We've had many names. But as time went on, the realization came to the people who started it that we can not only provide housing. 4 walls is not enough to sustain someone. You have to provide them an opportunity to provide for themselves, so supportive employment. You have to provide them food so that they can focus on, because if you can't, you're not going to take your medication and make your doctor's appointments if you're hungry. Those are the basic necessities that you need. And so today, what I'm asking you is to help us provide those basic necessities to the community of Dallas so that those people can have an opportunity to do the same going forward. The needs, there is a lot of food in this city, and there's a lot of opportunity for people to find food to eat. But what is needed is the people, the organizations and the businesses that have the food or the wherewithal to provide the food to get it to the people who need it. And so not only am I asking that you help us with this, with the food drive, but if some of you, or many of you, would help volunteer to help us run the pantries, that would be helpful as well. That's what I've come to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Shabbat Shalom. Just let me add a coda to that. Linda and I were at the North Texas Food Bank Empty Bowls yesterday. And for those of us who have technology, carry around it with us, there is an app, I think it's either called Django or Tango. You can ask me after Shabbat. I should have looked it up first. But their idea is that there are certain participating restaurants, and that if you have this app, when you go to the restaurant, if you buy from the restaurant, they will feed a person. All right, so the fact that you're eating allows them to feed somebody else. So I recommend looking up that app. It seems to be worthwhile. We haven't used it yet because we just got it yesterday. But that seems like something that would be very simple for us to do. And I think Marilyn wants to add something too.
I just wanted to tell you guys, we are starting the food drive. This year we're gonna start putting the food out in the owning room on some tables back against the wall. And we want to see those tables overflowing. Please, every time you come, bring something. You can shop and just bring a few extra things every single time. We want to have as much food, we want to have more food than we've ever had before, and we want to be able to donate to LifeNet this year. On Carolina Mitzvah Day, we're going to be going to LifeNet, and I think Marty Freed is going to be leading one of the projects to go there and help with the food pantry on that day. And also, I don't know if you realize, LifeNet is the group that we support for our Mitzvah Menorah. So when we give our gifts to the children and the adults at Mitzvah Menorah, they're going to the people at LifeNet. And if you've never been to the LifeNet party that we have, it's absolutely amazing and heartwarming and just the best thing in the world. They're so appreciative. So please dig down deep and think about it every time you walk in this room. And it's a great time for your comments. Absolutely. So we started the tables. Please look at it. Please connect. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we now